Welcome to Impact Duty. I'm your host, Manisha Dadlani Kripalani, bringing you empowering stories of friends and people I admire. Their voices have given me joy and the momentum to share their stories with you. Anjalina Chugani of Spice's Kitchen is a passionate and emotional cook, connecting strongly with her Indian roots. Born and raised in London, she's a citizen of the world, having lived in London, Bangalore, and now Barcelona. She has traveled far to connect with her extended family and believes that the best education is travel. Welcome, Angelina, to Impact Duty. I'm so glad you're joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm great, Manisha. Thank you so much for having me on your show, on your podcast, on this YouTube channel. It's an honor to be here. So thank you for telling me.
The pleasure is all mine. And Angelina, you are a cookbook author, an Ayurveda professional, a culinary goddess, and much more. But how did your cooking journey begin? Was it always an innate attribute that you had in you, or was it something that's developed in the recent past?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but obviously I'm gonna make it extremely short as I can. I was never really interested in cooking at all. I was always interested in eating. So eating for me was like, in our family where we love eating out, we love exploring food. We've always been foodies in our family. Our whole lives, all of us are connected through food. And I think that's the case with most people. But when it came to actual cooking, it was never something that I was super interested in, even though most people in my family, my mom above all else is like the best cook in the world.
Really?
I was not really ever I was never really inspired to want to cook as much as to want to accompany her in the kitchen or to be around her and things like that. But I think when I came to Spain, when I arrived in Spain almost now it's 21 years ago, that's when I was sort of thrown into the deep end and I had no choice but to learn how to cook. So it was part of it was being self-taught, and the other part was kind of getting advice from family, from my mom, from my aunts, from my grandmothers, all kinds of recipes that have been passed down from generations. So that's how I got into it. But I actually fell in love with cooking by accident because, I just became interested in suddenly creating my own recipes. Then I sort of built up a small little tiny blog, which not many people knew about. And then I decided to go to cooking school. And that was 7 years ago. And that's when I actually really fell in love with cooking.
Wow. And cooking school in Spain, or was it outside Spain?
Yes. No, in Spain, in Barcelona, because I live in Barcelona, there's a very well-reputed cooking school called Hoffman Culinary School. And people come from all over the world to attend this school. And they have very interesting courses. You can really immerse yourself. And what they do is they sort of give you the baseline of classic French and Spanish cooking. So it's kind of like starting from scratch, as if you've never been in a kitchen before. And that's really great education to have as somebody who wants to know more about the gastronomy industry and the world of food, because you need a baseline. You need something that's going to give you basic education where they integrate. And it is called sort of integrative cooking, because they show you how to cut. They show you how to use a chopping board properly. They show you how to hold a knife properly. And even though you think you know all those things, you really don't until you get to a professional cooking school like that. And these are people that have been in the profession for over 50 years. And they really give you such a great foundation. And that's where I fell in love with that environment.
Wow. Yeah. And you said you've been living, have the 21 years in Spain all been in Barcelona?
Yes, they have.
Yeah. And prior to that, where were you born and brought up?
So I was born and brought up in London, and I was there till I was 13. And then my dad one day decided that he wanted to pack up and leave and go and live in India. So we moved to Bangalore. I was 13 then, and I was in Bangalore till I got married. So till 2000. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I was 26. Yeah. And I moved to Barcelona when I was 26. Yeah.
And with that whole blend of living in London and India, and now in Barcelona, and having the cooking school background, has that influenced the kind of dishes you create, the kind of food you create? Is there something like fusion food for you? Have you created like a paella biryani, or how important is fusing the different elements from the different parts of the world that you've lived in?
So I'm not a huge fan of fusion. I've never really enjoyed that concept too much, because I feel like each culture, each country, each city has its own flavor and its own, speciality and traditions. So for me, it's kind of like, why mess with that? Let's just keep it as authentic as we can. But what I do is I really enjoy giving importance to seasonal local produce. And I think that for me has become a huge part of my cooking and my philosophy, because I think that wherever you are, and this is a huge philosophy of Ayurveda as well. So Ayurveda tells you that, we are earth, we are what is in our surroundings, we are exactly what is out there in the environment. It's in us because we are nature, right? So what we need to do is we need to live off the environment as much as we can, which means when it comes to cooking, you must try to make sure that you get hold of ingredients that are in season in the place where you live. Therefore, you can be in balance in that place, and you are one with nature, because you're not trying to get anything that's from a different country or from a different time zone, or cross miles and miles and miles to get here. Well, we all love food that's exotic and that's something different for us because it's exciting, but we can create those things by using what is local and what is available to us at that time in the market. That is very important to me. So wow. I love my Indian cooking. It's what my career started off as over here, as in the gastronomy world. And I pride myself on that. So for me, spices and all of those things are very, very important. However, we must buy as locally as possible. So if there's something that you can't get, then you need to adapt that and make it into something that, will be similar, and that the flavors will be the same, but you're using different ingredients that are local to here. So that's for me, that's pretty important.
Yeah, and that was actually one of my next questions. How difficult, or is there anything that you can't come by in Barcelona? Any produce that is hard to access over there?
Well, with regards to the cuisine I specialize in, and obviously it's Indian cooking here and everything, right? So it used to be really, really difficult to get things. And every time I would travel back home, I would bring a suitcase full of stuff. And, it was something that was like so important to me to be able to have everything from home. But then I realized that was very uncomfortable, and I felt like I was doing something wrong. So right. You go and you hunt for things, and you try to go out there and look for things that are available, and you just adapt to what there is. So actually now it's much easier to get things than it used to be. Right. And we really don't have that many issues. And if there are things that I can't really get, then I will use something else instead of it, And I think part of what we do as people who are in this industry is really try to, champion local producers and people who are providing you with things here, so you can help them as well. And you help yourself by, experimenting, just like learning to adapt to what you have around you. And I think that's the beauty of something like being in the world of gastronomy, because you can experiment all the time.
Wow. Thank you, Angelina. And moving to Ayurveda, it's played a huge role in your life. I guess Ayurveda has recently come into your life, relatively recently, or has it been?
Yes.
Okay. And it plays a big part in your life. How did that transpire, and how has that influenced your food creativity?
So I would say that Ayurveda has always been there in terms of, I mean, come on, it's over 5,000 years old. It's a science that's like spanned years and years and years. So obviously it's been around for a long time in my environment, in my living spaces, especially when I was in India. There's a lot of that you pick up without even realizing exactly what it is. So when I became interested in it, it was because of various reasons. I was having a lot of digestive issues, seeing a lot of people with mental imbalances around me and relating that as well to the food that they eat. So I got more and more interested in learning more about that. And because I have been cooking Indian food and using spices for such a long time as well, I was studying their properties and their health benefits. And then I realized that all of that was also linked to Ayurveda. And so for me, it kind of became a very natural progression into that world. And then I realized I just wanted to learn more and more. So I figured, okay, well, we never stop learning, right? We always must continue to educate ourselves and to learn more, especially in the field that we are in, or just go and diversify a little bit and find other ways to enhance what you're doing. And I thought that Ayurveda would be a really good way for me to integrate into my cooking skills. And that's how I came about it. So it's been about 2 years now only that I have, integrated into my work and into my life. But I tell you, it's been one of those epiphanies, when suddenly you're like, oh, this is what I'm looking for my whole life. This is what I think is the only way now for us to live our lives. And it has to be like that because of everything that's happened, especially in the last 1 year, especially with the pandemic and everything that's been going on. We all need to have a bit more integration in terms of like a more holistic life as well. And that will take us a lot further and will just give us a better quality of life eventually.
Right. Wow, beautiful. And you've authored or you've written a cookbook as well. I believe it goes by the same Instagram handle that you have. Oh, yay, you have it with you. Soul Spices. Lovely. Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your cookbook.
This was born in 2016. So she's she's quite old now. She's had 2 editions. She's my third baby. This is my third. I have 2 babies, and this is my third one. And I think that basically just came because I started teaching cooking classes. I wanted to bring Indian culture to the Spanish people more and more because they were not that exposed. And then, they would keep asking me the same types of questions about how to use spices and all of that curiosity was there. So I figured, what, let me put it all in one place so that people have access to it all the time. And that's when I started compiling the book. And the book isn't necessarily all Indian recipes. It has a lot of recipes that are a mix of, because I'm also like, I've lived in so many different places, right? So and also my family is global, very international. I have people, we all live in different parts of the world, so different things, probably one spice in every recipe. And I have a full introduction on each spice. So like in the book you'll see that I kind of highlight this in this way to talk about the different spices. And basically just to give people a brief introduction about this really extensive world of spices. And that was my intention, basically, and to just kind of make people understand that spices are not scary, because here people felt very apprehensive, to
Right.
use spices and to kind of, and once I have this and once I have these spices, then what else do I do with them? So it was more just about making them feel at ease and giving them an easier way of using them. And people have a fear of cooking, and I think that all I wanted to do was kind of erase that fear of cooking for people and say, listen, it can be super relaxed. You don't have to be stressed out about it, So
Right.
that's what I wanted to do.
Excellent. Wow. And you're a food blogger as well, with a fairly strong media presence. And how did that evolve?
Well, it's kind of part of the journey of the book. It started with the book, and I was teaching, and then with the book, I also launched a YouTube channel also, which is not very active at the moment because I've realized I can't be everywhere at the same time. It's a bit difficult. But I discovered that Instagram was a way for me to reach people, because I'm very visual as well, and I enjoy visual interactions. So I love styling the food. I love creating images, with food. And for me, that was something that I was enjoying, and I still enjoy very, very much. So I've always considered, social media as a place where I can be creative. And also for me, communicating with people directly. Like, I love being able to speak to somebody one-to-one. And, when I have people writing to me and messaging me, I try to reply them as soon as I can. And I love that personal interaction. For me, that's always been very, very important, because, many times you'll see, a sort of window, like, so Instagram is like a sort of window, no? When you go into a store and you see the window on the outside, that's kind of your display, no? But then you want to know more, so you want to go inside and have a look. And for me, Instagram is like that, but I want to go inside and have a look and maybe get to know more about that person, or understand where that person is coming from, and kind of understand that person's language, because everybody has a different way of speaking on their social media platforms as well. So I like that. I think that a social media platform needs to have personality. It needs to be very, very sort of human and easy to communicate with that person. So I love Instagram. I think it's a beautiful way to connect if you use it in the right way.
Yeah, and Instagram loves you. And what is some of your go-to ingredients? Like something we would always find in Angelina's kitchen, or something that this is your ingredient, your magic ingredient.
Well, obviously spices, I have to say that, because I have a million zillion spices in my kitchen. So my main spice box is my go-to, little, sort of magical ingredient, like all the little spices that I use regularly. And then I would say that something that I really found some kind of, it's almost life-changing, I would say, is ghee. So ghee has a kind of a bad reputation in India. It used to have a really bad reputation in terms of being really unhealthy and not being, a good fat. But look at it through an Ayurvedic perspective, and in general, in a health perspective, good fats are really important. So for me, ghee is an extremely important element of my kitchen now.
Wow.
And I use it pretty much for a lot of, like, I would say 70% of my cooking, I use ghee. And it's because it's also not just for cooking, but it's for therapeutic use as well. So you can use it for massage. You can use it, if you're having issues with digestion. It is something that is really magical if you learn to use it in the right way.
Wow.
So I really love ghee. And another thing that I think every have is fresh ginger. So fresh ginger, like the root, is something that every household should have all the time, because for me, that solves all digestive problems. It is the way that you need to start your day. If you integrate that into your cooking, you will feel so much better. Your body will feel so much better. It's great to add to your tea. I'm sure you like a masala chai once in a while, Manisha. So
Sure.
to add that to your masala chai, that is like, yeah, that is for me magical. And it's just a couple of basic things that one needs to really feel that, because for me, Ayurveda has brought so much attention to digestion that it becomes such an important part of your life. If you have good digestion and if your body is functioning properly, then the rest of you will function properly. It all starts there. And your mental stability and the way you think throughout the day, if you notice, if you're not having great digestion, your mind is cloudy and things are just not kind of looking right to you. But once you have that, you have everything.
Wow. Wow, those are fabulous tips. Are there any mentors that you look to for inspiration or have been inspirational for you?
Well, I couldn't answer that question without first saying that, my mom has always been, in terms of cooking, my number one, mentor. She, I used to see her cooking from the youngest, as far back as I can remember. I have images of her in the kitchen because she always loved cooking and cooking for other people as well. So I have inherited that from her. I believe that when you cook with love for other people, it's just everybody feels so much better. You can bring people together with that, and she always did that, and that's something that I always love doing. So she's my number one. And in terms of professionals, there are so many amazing cooks out there, and chefs and people doing such great things. Obviously, when it comes to Indian cooking, my icon that I always look at is Madhur Jaffrey, because she is the woman who really launched Indian food in a way that was very different in terms of cookbooks and cooking shows. I mean, she's really like the icon of, Indian cooking in terms of everything. Until today, she is. And more recently, because I've learned so much about Ayurveda, my Ayurveda teacher, who I call her my guru because she really is, I really look up to her. And I mean, it's those people who really show you the way and give you a perspective which is so different. So she is definitely somebody that I do a lot. And I have to say that in where I am in Barcelona, I have seen the evolution of the Indian restaurants and Indian cooking really opening up, where it was something very, very rare and not easy to see. Now I'm seeing young chefs and young people in the industry really taking interest in Indian cooking and Indian food. And they are opening up some great restaurants and really educating the Europeans and the Spanish people here on what really good Indian food is. So these are people that I admire a lot as well.
Excellent. Wow, thank you. Angelina, anything that you've created recently that you said, yeah, this one is a winner of a dish? I mean, I know whatever you create is fabulous. I also saw one of your posts this morning, a chickpea frittata, am I right? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what is one of your favorite dishes that you've created that you're like, wow, this is my signature dish?
It's so hard to say that. I find it really difficult to say that because yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's a tricky one, that question, because there are I'm always trying to do new things, and I'm always trying to create new dishes and new perspectives. And so for me, it's kind of a tricky one. But
it is.
No, but I will say that at the end of last year, because I've been experimenting with a lot of spice mixes actually. So it's not a dish per se, but I try to blend spices and create my own spice blends and everything, right? So I came up with a blend for golden milk, which is
Ooh,
basically something that's been in fashion for a while now, but it's what we call haldi doodh in India. Like it's basically
yes,
something to cure you, okay? But
right.
it's a combination of a bunch of different spices. So there's turmeric because that's what gives you, the anti-inflammatory properties and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bunch of other spices in there. So I'm very proud of the mix that I came up with because I worked on it for a very long time. It took me about a year to perfect it. And
Ooh,
finally, came up with a formula that really, really works, and it's really tasty, and there are no artificial flavorings, there is no sweetener, there are no additives, and I actually really love it myself, and I was able to start marketing that at the end of last year. So for me,
wonderful.
that is something really I'm proud of, and I can say it's really my own and it's my creation, and hopefully from that I'm going to bring in some other blends as well. So
Excellent.
I really am very proud of that one blend, and it's been doing really well here actually, so I'm very happy with that.
Wow. And is that branded as Soul Spices?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And Angelina, before I say goodbye to you, any Angelina hacks you'd like to share with us, or any tips for the food buffs out there that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think that I would, basically advise people, because I have young people asking me a lot about how to move forward with their careers, with cooking and things like that. And I always say, never say no to anything. Always try everything once,
Hmm.
because you don't know unless you try. And that even is with like tasting something. That's
Right.
even with trying something the first time. That's even if you're offered something to do, but you've never done it before. Don't be scared. Just go for it and try it, because you never know where that's going to take you. And you need to try a lot of things before you get to where you want to actually be. So if you
Hmm.
don't walk up those steps, you're never going to reach to that part that you're really aiming to be at. And I think once you even get there, you have to keep challenging yourself. So I believe that, challenge is a really good thing if you look at it with positive perspectives. So just keep doing that.
Yay. Angelina, thank you very, very much for sharing all your tips, all your light, and so much essence. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you today.
Oh, I love talking to you too, Manisha. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.